All right, so we're recording. All right, so welcome everyone to our call this evening. Um, we're going to go through a few things, and then the bulk of it's going to be going through MySQ and kind of talk about how to use that for your sessions and kind of some of the reasons we're looking at going that direction. Um, if at any time you have questions, just stop me right then, and we'll go ahead and take care of it, and then we'll move on. So, again, welcome everybody, and thank you for taking time out this evening. You should have received an email from Therese, Therese Steiner or Wanda, I forgot Wanda's last name all of a sudden, about ASQ selling the ASQ Center. So just to let you know, this is kind of what it looks like in the front. However, everything you see is not ASQ. ASQ is actually off to the right. It's a five-story part of this building. I'm sorry, 6 stories, part of this building, and that's the part that ASQ owns. So a little bit of background is that 2010, a mortgage and a line of credit was taken out for this building and from PNC Bank, and since then, uh, there's been a number of uh, been renegotiated and that sort of thing. Well, that line of credit and the mortgage is due in 2 weeks, and it's $12 million. The original loan was 18 million. About back in 2022, it was decided that ASQ is going to go ahead and sell the building. And the primary reason, one is right now they use two floors, floor number 5 and number 4. And they're renting out the rest. So they're also serving as a landlord. That's not something that they really want to do. It doesn't really serve our members. Can you hold on for 1 second? All right, sorry about that. So they just want to get out of the landlord business. So they went ahead and began looking at selling, and actually came up with a uh, working with a company called Hempel Holdings. Now, Hempel, probably the largest owners of uh, Milwaukee, the rental units downtown. And so they were going to go ahead and buy the building. The plan was they would buy it, and then ASQ would get, I guess, I can't remember the total price, but then they would go ahead and use $7.5 million from the proceeds to pay down the loan. They had already worked with Fifth Third Bank last spring and negotiated a $5 million loan, basic line of credit, and they're going to use some of that and then pay off PNC. Right before Christmas, Hempel said that they aren't going to be able to pull everything together to get to get their loan to pay off, and so everything kind of got put into it went sideways, and so they're trying to get things going again. So what we've come up with, I said I had nothing to do with this, because I'm not that smart to do this kind of stuff. Is that we're going to go ahead and create a joint venture between ASQ and Hempel. Now, this is only for the ASQ Center. And this joint venture will buy the ASQ Center. And then over the next 3 or 4 years, Hempel will manage it because that's what they do. And then in 3 or 4 years, Hempel will be able to buy all of it or sell it to somebody else. So ASQ will continue to occupy the fourth floor. Um, we have the fifth floor. It's not used that much. Um, One thing with COVID is the work from home thing. It's become a lot, oh, obviously all over people are doing it. And of course, ASQ has kind of followed, some of the people there have followed. And so they don't really need the fifth floor. And so moving everybody to the fourth floor will help. And actually, that's going to give Hempel that ability to rent out that floor. And they have a signed lease with a company. It's going to pull in about 300 employees into that building. And they will go on the fifth floor, not only the ASQ side, but on the other side. And probably going to be the biggest lease this year in Milwaukee. So, and that's 11-year commitment. And so with that in their back pockets and a few other things, they can probably go back to the bank in a year or two and say, we have all this collateral that they don't have at the moment, and be able to go ahead and sell, or buy, Hempel will buy from the joint venture, and um, we'll be able to get some our money back. So what we're doing for the short term is that we're going to sell, ASQ is going to sell $5 million from the PNC investments. Now, some of our sections have invested in PNC investments. This is, a lot of people call it the PNC long-term investment. None of the funds that are being sold are from sections. This is just kind of the, for lack of a better term, the ASQ headquarters funds. Then we have the $5 million from the Fifth Third Bank that was negotiated last spring, and then $2 million will be taken from 19 sections. None of those sections are in our region. They all have over $50,000 in their accounts. There are also some funds to be taken from some of the region funds. Honestly, I haven't checked lately. I don't know if they looked at ours or not. We don't have $50,000. Plus, back at beginning, we started last year, but at the beginning of January, we transferred some of our money into the short-term fund. And we will talk about that next month for the sections, about some of the advantages of that. So the plan is that the joint venture will get together, and within the next 3 to 6 months, the money that the sections loaned to ASQ for this will all be paid back in full with a 5% APR rate. So right now, that money is sitting in Bill Highway doing nothing. So they're going to get it back with 5% in interest, and then $3 million will be invested back into the headquarters PNC account, of investment account, and then the rest goes into the joint venture working on the building. They got to do some remodeling for that new tenant. So that's basically everything that's going to happen with that. So I know that's not a very exhaustive explanation of what's going on, but basically I just want, if anybody had any questions, then we can go talk about that right now. Again, it doesn't really affect anybody in our region. But I just wanted to make sure that there was, I mean, ASQ is actually fine. It's just being real estate, or me being landlord, it's not something that really that we're doing well, or not that we're doing well. We just don't want to do it. So any questions regarding that?
I do not.
Okay. Anybody else? All right then. So I want to welcome everybody. I'm not real sure who is new this year that's on the call. I know we got a couple people on the call. So this is the leadership team for the East South Central region. Dave Small. I'm the regional director. I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years. Arvid Harding, he's a deputy director. He's the one that's is sending out the newsletter. And the idea behind the newsletter is to provide all sections opportunities to give to your membership um, of other educational opportunities, not only within our region, but outside the region. So he puts that together. So if you're having a meeting, especially if it's online, send that information to Arvid, hopefully a week or two before the end of the month. That way we can try to make sure that the newsletter goes out as early as possible in the beginning of the following month. And especially if for some reason your section is not going to have an event that month, this still gives your members an opportunity to get recertification units or just some knowledge, and also there's always a little bit of social time with all of these meetings, and they can meet some other people. So Arva does that. Leslie and David are also helping out. One thing we're doing with some of our smaller sections that are having issues, getting like a full uh, section leadership team is the we are all kind of teaming up with a section and just trying to provide some help. So, and that's been we've already seen some good things coming from that. It's kind of a new program that we put together, so everybody's working in that direction. Real quick, we are the Orange. Um, we have about 1,700 members that fall within that area, as in 16 sections. Excuse me. And you can see we've got quite a bit around. The perhaps the Pacific is the most interesting. They go from Hawaii to Alaska, the entire Pacific coast. So I know the vision director there would love to travel to some of those, especially some of the southern, down in Hawaii, to meet those sections, but he doesn't. So if you were on this past Saturday's training, you saw this slide, and we're going to go ahead and each quarter look at what's going on and what needs to happen. So if we go through the Q1 right now, basically every section has a complete leadership team roster. That doesn't mean if you find somebody who's interested and wants to come on, there are, for most sections, some open positions. We need 5 are mandatory. The rest are all optional. So there are, and as some sections, they also have something called a board member at large. And a lot of times that's just a generic position to where somebody can come in and be on the board. They don't really have specific duties, but they can go and see how the board works. They may help with some projects, that sort of thing, and just kind of get an idea of whether they want to be on the board in the future. So there's a lot of ways. So if you find somebody, don't feel that you are, that you're quote full. We can always, if somebody's interested, we can always find a place for them. So hopefully everybody's, reviewed the minimum requirements, gone over your business plan for 2024. And, now it's time, because since most of those were written last year, some of you are maybe seeing this for the first time, and that's where we kind of find out what the goals for the section are for the rest of the year. And just because they were written down last year doesn't mean that there's in concrete. There's a living document. As you're going throughout the year, if you need to make some changes, make some changes. We'll also review the PEP requirements, and that's performance excellence. Again, we'll probably talk about that next month some. We've had 2 sessions that have turned in all the paperwork for the PEP award for 2023 that I know of. I got check with component relations. There may be one more. And this is last year, Lexington got the bronze award. I know they're going for it again this year. And this is something, the award actually happens at the World Conference in May. So all the paperwork, which is the business plan, budget, and the progress report, which is actually on the bottom of that column, that had to be turned in by January 31st. Excuse me. And then the region leadership will go ahead and score those. We actually had our training right before this meeting. And then we'll turn that into the PEP committee around March 1 or something like that. And then they go ahead and they review it again. So we'll go ahead and talk, like I said, talk about that more next month. And then again, the business plan and budget review. This slide is really, really useful, and we will probably maintain this slide in the slide deck for the rest of the year. If you have questions, 9 times out of 10, the answers are somewhere in here. These are all live links. They went through them at the end of last year just to verify that everything's going to the right spot, because with the transition to the new MyASQ, some of the links of the previous slide kind of were broken. But again, and this was also from Saturday's meeting. But if there's anything in, like I said, if you got any questions, it's the first place to go. Second place to go would be to myself or one of the deputy regional directors or component relations. Component relations probably knows a lot more, but sometimes they got 219 sections to take care of, and that worked out to about 2,500 section leadership team members of leadership teams. So if they can get behind pretty quickly, especially this time of year. I know that Monica Riders, we were talking a couple weeks ago, she's getting about 100, 150 emails per day. And so it doesn't take long to get behind. So again, this information is available to everyone. So we're kind of going to some of the MySQ stuff, but the other area is to look is the member leader community. A lot of the information from here is located in here. Just the other slide has some links that kind of goes a little bit quicker. A lot of information here. The library has all the resources that you need. So this would be the second place to look. Okay, so any questions about any of that so far?
Dave,
Yes.
what are we doing about getting some more Monicas?
I don't see that happening. We got Bella, and she is awful good too. She's just newer.
Right. But yeah, Monica's pretty good. She knows the system pretty good.
Yep. Okay, now can you see the MySQ thing?
Yes.
All right, good. So this is what I really want to focus on. This is what really got bogged down on this morning's call. So this is the homepage of MySQ, and here is the member leader community. There's a link to it. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time. Well, we'll real quickly go there. So here's the other thing, is this section right here, quick access to a number of areas that people have questions about. So there's the Bill Highway, Member Planet training. You got section logos, short-term investment, which we mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about next month. Here's resources, new member leader guide. So there's a lot of information right here. So again, the whole idea is access. We talked about the library. Things do slow down when you're going through WebEx apparently. So here is well, that's fast. Here is the training from Saturday. So this is the slide deck. I think that they're actually going to go. The recording will probably be out later this week, but that's the slide deck from Saturday. You can see all the information here to the left, where everything's kind of grouped together. So, but what I want to focus on, you can go to my communities, and then here's this is the all member form. Now, because I'm a regional director, I am also a member of every single section. That's why I have such a large list. Probably a lot of you, you're going to be a member of the member leader committee. You're probably going to be a member of this one. There may be a few problems with that, and we'll get to that in a second. If you're a division, if you're part of a division, you may have that one also. So again, Um, a lot to choose from there. This is very, very similar to your Sections MySQL page. Okay, it's exactly the same. Most of this front here, you can't do squat about. All right, because this is all coming from some of these other tabs up here, discussion library and such. That's automatically filling this. So you really can't do much on this front page. You can create some photo albums. We haven't, but you can. The other thing that's important to note is community admins. When we get to some things a little bit later, only community admins have access to them. So if you're not an admin, there's a few things under the settings tab that you won't be able to do. If you need to be an admin, we can go ahead and, the section chair just needs to contact component relations, say, hey, I need to add, Bob as an admin, and they can do that. That's not something you can do yourself. So right here where you can see the regional directors, this came out of Saturday. Somebody made this recommendation, so we went ahead and did it with our group. Basically, it's the same thing as that first slide. I even tried to put pictures on here, but it really bogged down. This section right here, if you go to settings, it's called additional HTML content. And I mean, if you're into HTML things, here's what it is. But somebody knows what they do can probably do a whole lot more using HTML. I'm very poor at it. So, and that's the reason I couldn't figure out how to get the pictures in there without looking bad. So, again, this is something I know that Leslie had for the Birmingham section. They got some pictures in here. So there's just a lot of opportunities to customize. But on this front page, this area right here is the only thing you can customize. I strongly recommend, because it made a heck of a lot of sense, if for your section that you put your section leadership team up here. Again, that gives your section members access to who you are, what you do, and if they got any questions, they know who to contact. Now, one thing that we have not done until very recently, I'm talking about like yesterday, is set down some what each of these are. So you can tell that John has been putting stuff under the thread. One thing we kind of decided with the discussions is that this is aimed at two-way conversations. So this would be, hey, does anybody know some ideas for section icebreakers, through, virtual icebreakers, that sort of thing. And then people can come back. Announcements, we're going to stick over here under blogs. Okay, again, we just kind of came up with this plan recently. So this is where
Hey,
you can
Dave.
go ahead. Yes.
So I was wanting to put my stuff on events, but I have to be an admin to be able to do events. So only way I can put stuff on with regards to our meeting is to go to discussions and
Well, you
put
can
it
put it on
there.
blogs, can't you?
Blog, I'll have to try it.
Okay.
I'll try it and let you know.
If you keep it on discussions, we're not going to kick you off. But that's just kind of, we want to focus announcements on blogs. Now, here's something that's important to understand. Let's go over here to events real quick, and then we'll go back to the library. Okay. So Arvin went ahead and put the newsletter on events. Events are something that has a date. Okay. Not something that's kind of general. So again, here's our post call that we're in right now. So this is where you want dates. Now, if you go ahead and put something in here for, let's say your section meets, I think it's this Thursday, right? And they're having that discussion with the AI about
Yeah.
AI or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Thursday, and then also I think Arvin is 11:06
Six.
meeting on Thursday night. But
Right.
so what you're saying, instead of putting the newsletter, he should do the 5 items from the newsletter there, wouldn't you think?
Well, but yeah, but uh, yes and no. Because one thing is important to note, the only people who see this are member leaders. Okay, so if you put it here, nobody in your section is going to see this. If you want section membership, you have to put it in in your case, Lexington MyASQ.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is only for the member leaders. And while he could go ahead and put would you say 5 in the newsletter?
I think there's like 5 different events. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Probably the blog's actually a better place because then you or anybody can go ahead and download that and send that to your membership. And if he breaks it up here, then you got to send all 5 of those individually.
Right.
So from an event standpoint, this is probably going to be more just regional events, um, and not so much what's going on in a particular section. Just
Okay.
primarily because you got to put it in twice.
Yeah.
You have to put it in on the regional and your local section.
I'll try the blog. I'll try it pretty soon and let you know.
Okay, but you said you can't even get in here because you're not admin?
I can do, I think I can only put stuff in, I think in discussion, but I'll double check. Maybe blog I can.
Okay,
But I know that events that I didn't have authorization. I had to be like admin.
okay. I did not know that, so that's interesting. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to emphasize that putting stuff on the regional is not near as important as making sure you have all the information for your section membership on your section ASQ site, my ASQ
You
site.
know, my thought, Dave, on that was that can you hear me?
Yes, I'm just
Yeah.
coughing a lot.
My thought was that to help other sections in case they needed a program.
Yes.
That's why I put it on there, but that was my only thought, that maybe section leaders might be checking out your, uh, you know, the region
Yeah.
and maybe find it, you know?
I don't disagree with what you're thinking. It's just that I think it puts a lot of extra work on, making sure that you put it on twice. Um, and I'm not against that. Just it is more important that you have your section site correct than it is the region site.
Oh,
If you want to do it twice, I'm not gonna fight you on that at all. Okay.
okay.
So here's the library. So what we're going to keep in the library is obviously the recording and the slide deck from all of our pulse calls. I did a poor job of making sure we did recordings last year. We're going to try to do a much better job this year. Um, then there's some other things like the Fellows Focus Group speaker list. Um, at one point, I had the business plan in here, got rid of it since that's passed. So again, this is where if you think of something and we'll go back and look at it, it'll be here in the library. So then we have our member list, and you can go through there. You can type in people's names. Of course, I'm probably a little bit easier because I look myself up a lot. Um, but you can go by company names. You can put in email, header, and then they give a list of everybody that's down here. We have currently 67 members in our region. Now, there are two lists of member leaders. Okay, let me back up. There are two membership lists. All right. Every month that you get in your SharePoint site, a updated member list, typically from Bella, um, of the members within your section, or in this particular case, the member leaders within our region. That's pretty current. What I found out a couple of weeks ago is that the people who do that member list and the people who do the membership on MyASQ are not the same people. And the MyASQ people are typically behind the member list that comes from component relations. So it is possible and actually, um, we have about 15 or 20 member leaders who are not in this committee right now. So again, this is how you find out about people. You click on, and then it goes to their profile. This is my profile. So obviously, when you look at somebody else's, I didn't want to bring anybody else's up. You won't be able to do all these modifications of adding and stuff, but it will give you information about those people. So that's kind of self-explanatory. Now, if you want to go ahead and export your entire list, you can go down here and export. And that basically gives you a name. I know it gives you their email address and a couple of other things. And then there's some columns, I don't even know what they are. So that gives you the information. Now, real quick, why is this kind of important? Why do you want to look at possibly doing something like this, email community members, as opposed to using the member list that Bella sends out? The big concern for ASQ is the member list, because if they lose control of that list, there could be significant lawsuits against the society. Google just went through one, and they got to pay like $63 billion because they lost control of some of their people, and it kind of just got into telemarketers' hands and that sort of thing. If I understand it right, it's a lot more complicated than that. But you got to think about, it's not hard to lose control of that list, because if you download that list, you're going to send an email out to all the new people, or to all the senior members or whatever, and you're download it, because a lot of people use their work email addresses, and you download it onto your work computer. All right. And then you go ahead and do your thing, and you put it in your document under your ASQ folder, and then your company backs up your computer and you don't even know about it. Okay. Which is perfectly fine. That's makes life a lot easier when things go wrong. But it's now on your company's server, no longer controlled by ASQ. So boom, we're actually out of the privacy when we violated our privacy commitment to our membership. That's why we have the privacy training every year, simply to remind people you can't do what I just described. What I see in the future, and this is what we're trying to do as a region, is to start using MyASQ more, because I don't have a list that goes anywhere else. It's all within MyASQ. And so I don't have to worry about any of that. And actually, there's a second part in when you email through MyASQ, and a lot of contact managers do this already, so it's not anything mind-boggling. It sends emails out to each individual. When I send an email out to all the member leaders, all 79 or whatever, I'm sending one email. And your company or even your personal spam filter can easily kick that into your junk folder. So going through MySQ, you have the opportunity to get more emails through than just blank carbon copy everybody, which you're supposed to do anyway. So that's another advantage of going this route. So since we're here, so if you hit email, you only got two choices right now to do everybody, to somebody, people who joined the last 30 days, or to everybody in the organization. And what you do is go ahead and write your email down here, and you can do more HTML. You put links in. There's your links. You take links out, indent, bullet, different fonts, that sort of thing. Not as fancy as Word or Outlook, but it definitely does a really good job. You can add a calendar invite, you can attach files, that sort of thing. And then you leave this part alone. If you put in whatever your subject is, you leave this part alone, and then when it comes in, it's going to say, "Hello, Dave," and then your email. Whereas right now, when I send emails through the member list, there's no salutation. So this just makes it a tad more personal, assuming that all this information is in here. Now, one other thing you need to take a look at right now, 59 members have selected to receive email. 8 members have opted out, meaning that they're not going to get this. Now, what I'm not going to do is click and show you their names. But as soon as I'm going to work on this, I'm going to send an email out to everybody within this list and say, hey, here's what we're doing. We're going through MySQ in the future. You're not going to get any emails if you are opt out. Okay. On our member list currently, we have a number of members on every single list that do not give their email address, do not give their phone number. So unless you go through snail mail, they're not going to get squat anyway. So this is not uncommon, no matter what list you use. Any questions about this right now? All right. So here's,
Hey, Dave.
yes,
Hey,
sir.
Dave. Uh, on the events tab, when you do an event and you go down to the end, you can say copy all members,
Yes.
and then you save it, and it copies. It sends an individual letter to every single member of your community. Let's say your section.
Uh-huh.
So it's similar to this, but it's a little bit different. But it's a good feature because the only problem I see is that it sends them pretty much pretty soon, and you don't have a way of like programming it to be like a day before or a week before or
Right.
something like that. You know.
I got to check on that because I keep talking. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were in a meeting. I was in a meeting in Milwaukee, and it was on Friday. And Bella, who works, she and Monica work side by side. She sent out the Friday member leader update, and she was sitting right next to me, and I know for a fact that she didn't send it out at 2 o'clock or whenever it went out. And so I think there is a way to schedule. I have no idea how it is, and it could be that something else was done, but I mean she didn't even have her computer open, so um, I need to look into that. Um, so anyway, but yeah, that's a very good point. So one thing I need to also mention, see where it says email notifications and this stuff right here. If you are not an admin, okay, which is most everybody, this is all you see under settings. So um, all this here, which is add or invite others, and all this on the left-hand column, that's only for admins. So for the email community members, you need to figure out who's going to do most of your emailing. Make sure that they're an admin, and then that you can go ahead and do this. So we've already talked about the settings here. You can go ahead and change the name. You don't need to. and you kind of make some changes here. You can actually, I guess you can delete these. I didn't want to. I didn't want to test that, so I didn't try it. Um, but you can go ahead and um, make some adjustments there. I didn't mean to go that far out. So then here's the additional HTML content we talked about, which is this to the left. Here's your members. This is basically the same as what we looked down the members tab. The difference is, you know how long they've been a member, okay? If they have a role, which you can see here that Arvid is a admin. So and then you can change their role somewhat. You can restrict them, or you can actually remove them. And this is something you do with some people because there's a few people on here who are no longer uh, member leaders. A couple of them are retired, and so I got to go through and do this again. This is because component relations and the people who do this are not the same people, and I kind of just don't want to wait for them. The other thing which is good is this add a member. So for now this can go ahead and look at everybody, and this does it one initial at a time. And to be honest, this is a complaint I have. I can't read. I mean, I'm too old for some of that. So, but let's say there's somebody who is actually a member of your section, and they are not on this list down here. So Tracy is, and so I'll add. Oh, I messed up. What I did not mean to do, I sent an email invitation. I should have added her immediately. You can do both. But if you're adding somebody who you know is a member of your section, I'll just go ahead and add them instead of the email invite. So you can, again, you have to be a admin to have access to this. Members reports and dashboard, the reports, and it's a dashboard of how things are being used. Feel free to go ahead and look at those. And then some of these down here are, I haven't used any of these here, so I don't have a whole lot of information. This volunteer management opportunities, hold off on that right now. MySQ has a number of different modules that are coming out in the next 6 to 12 months. One is a volunteer module. You may have seen the email about that a while back. It's going to be more, the goal is to use it more than this down here, okay? And maybe they're going to tie this into it, I don't know. But don't use this until we get the volunteer module and see how that works. They're also going to send out a expert module, and this is basically where all of our speaker lists are going to be into. There's a mentoring module that's going to be coming out. I think I get those in the reverse order of how they're coming out. I know, volunteer mentoring and the what they call expert or expert speaker module. I know those three are coming out. So that was one of the other things we're going with this platform to host MySQ. It just has a lot more capabilities and availabilities that we are, slowly taking advantage of. There's also, I can't remember, I think it's called Workspace. Since we have lost, a lot of people have lost access to SharePoint, there is a module called Workspace, which the plan was not to use it at all. But now with the SharePoint thing, they're now looking back at it because it would be almost replace SharePoint. That one's that's down the road. So excuse me again. So one thing about these modules is that they want to introduce them one at a time so that we don't get crazy. And people just get overwhelmed. So again, this is very useful. If you're an admin, if you need to be an admin, have your section chair contact Student Relations. They are the ones who can, or at least they know the people who can make you an admin. So any questions about this? Okay, that's all I got. I mean, we've already, I want to keep these at 30 minutes, and we're at 50 right now. So I don't want to keep anybody any longer. Uh, but if you have questions, you just want to talk about a few things, I'll hang out. But if you need to go and put the kids to bed or do whatever, please feel free to do that. Next month, we will meet again. We will talk about the PEP award and some of the requirements that need to happen for that. And we will talk about the short term investment opportunity because there's a number of sections. Basically, 80% of our sections have unused funds sitting in Bill Highway account doing nothing. And moving some of those funds into a short-term investment that's earning, roughly 5% a year makes a whole lot of sense, and it's much better use of the monies that we've all been asked to take care of. So again, if you need to drop off, please do. I appreciate you showing up. We'll stick around for a little bit if anybody's got any questions or anything you want to talk about. And as always, throughout the next month, if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself, contact Dave or Leslie or Arvid, and we'll try to get the answers to you as quickly as we can. So thanks, everybody.